Well, hey, everybody. God bless you. Hey, it's myself, Pastor Phil, and
Pastor Christina Davis.
we're so excited to have you all tonight. It's going to be a tremendous time of conversation. I'll let my wife take it from here and tell us where we're going.
Yeah, we're preparing to celebrate our 119th church anniversary. And not only that, we are also preparing to burn the mortgage on this building. So we're super excited that you joined us tonight because today is the kickoff of all the events that we have planned for this week. If you don't know all the events we have this weekend, please check it out on our Facebook page, check it out on our YouTube page so that you can join us. We are cordially inviting you to be a part of all of the events that are happening this weekend. But tonight we're kicking it off with a great conversation with a lot of special guests and people who have been a part of the growth of this ministry from the beginning.
Absolutely. So we're so excited to have our special guests, and we'll introduce them in a minute. But let me kind of give you a rundown. Friday night, we're having a tremendous
Encounter night.
Encounter night. We've got special guests coming in. It's a free event. Just a time of worship and praise, thanking God for his faithfulness over the last 119 years. Of course, we haven't been here the whole time.
Yeah.
Maybe I look like it, but you don't. And then Saturday is a serve day, so we're just going to be serving our community. We're giving out free gas cards and paying for groceries. We'll be right downtown Easton. We'll be in Bethlehem at the C-Town on the south side, and up in Stroudsburg where our Stroudsburg campus is. And then Sunday morning, we'll have an amazing celebration. We're actually ordaining elders, deacons, and ministers on that day. It's going to be a tremendous
service.
in the morning, and then the afternoon.
Then the afternoon is when we burn the mortgage. So please come out and join us. But before we get started, make sure you share this on Facebook, share it on YouTube, invite somebody to watch what's about to happen in the next few minutes. You don't want to miss this.
So we're going to cut to a quick video, and then we will be right back to have this really dynamic conversation with our good friends who've been a part of our journey to get us to this place of 119 and the burning of the mortgage. All right, we'll cut to a video. Be right there.
Well-trained and traveled, Fred Davis came originally from Harlem, New York, via Chatham, Virginia. He had a background as a trade union leader and teacher evangelist in the Bahamas. He was a strong pulpit orator. He didn't hoop much, if at all, and he had a good singing voice. And he just loved to sing, "Can't Nobody Do Me Like Jesus." He was also well educated, holding both a bachelor's and master's degree. In addition, he had an enormously funny sense of humor. It was clear that he was just full of the love and joy of the Holy Ghost. Reverend Davis's spiritual and academic credentials were important to the congregation. They desired a strong spiritual leader who could preach and teach, but could also hold his own intellectually with anybody, including Easton's politicians downtown, whose respect and cooperation was going to be needed to get certain things done. But while the congregation believed to a person he was the man to lead Shiloh, Fred Davis was not convinced. Not enthused at the time with small-town Easton, he rejected the congregation's offer. Not once, but twice.
And it was Mother Cannon, Mother Nora Cannon, at a church meeting, said, "Oh, now we have to have more faith than that." And she said, "Now God is going to send us a leader. You know he's going to send us a leader. And if we want Reverend Fred Davis, we'll have to pray over it. Because prayer changes things." So she said, "Let's pray morning, noon, and night that Reverend Davis would come." Well, with the Almighty behind us, Reverend Davis couldn't refuse us. Not then. So finally he decided that he would come to Shiloh and be our shepherd.
Welcome back, everybody. As you can see, my wife has changed a little bit, but we're so glad to have all of our wonderful special guests here to take a look back. This gives us an opportunity to talk about our partners and then to talk about some of our current partnerships as a community of faith. So this, to me, is so important. That would be Mr. Bill Scott. So whoever that is, let's take him down. All right, very good. So I want to make sure that we have an opportunity to introduce all of our guests. So I'll start on my far left. If you would introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor Phil. My name is Phil Mittman, and I've been in Estonian all my life, and have the pleasure of serving the Easton community as mayor twice and other things, along with Mayor Panto, Ken Brown, and Tina. We all know each other well. I wanted to share something that your dad said to me over in the church when I ran for office in 1979.
Wow.
I had to write it down. It says, well, your dad said, Mr. Mittman, I understand you're running for the mayor's job, 1979 here. And he said, I'd like you to stand up. And I had Tony and my 2 children there. He said, I'd like you to stand up. I want to say something to you. He said, be careful on your way up the ladder, because you're going to see those same people on the way back down. And that has stuck with me forever. And I've told my children and grandchildren about it, and that just sticks with me. The other important piece of my life where Greater Shiloh and before Greater Shiloh was when, Mayor Panto will remember this, in 1980, Easton had some serious police abuse. We called it police brutality problems. And I was only 35, first couple of months in, big issues out there in the west ward of Easton, 7th Street we called it. And I felt so good that the African American community came together. We met downtown at then the YWCA, and Steve Henley and Ricky Larks, and what was Mr. Dorsey's name, the firefighter? Joe Dorsey. And we all came together to talk about what to do about that, and it took some time. However, that's how the community worked together. And my parents grew up in the west ward of Easton, knew the Goods, the Kaisers, knew the families. So we all share that common experience. And for me, that's many other things I could say, but congratulations on 119 years, since 1904?
Yes.
And that speaks very strongly for the leadership and also for the members of the church, keeping it going.
Yeah, thank you so very much. I appreciate that, Phil.
Yeah, thank you.
Next, Brother Brown.
Thank you, Pastor Phil. First of all, every time I walk in this building, I'm reminded of a saying that our pastor, my mentor, used to say, and that is, all of us or none of us. And I hold that dearly to my heart. I spent a lot of time in this church. I remember stacking them chairs together that one night. Mm-hmm. And I remember Pastor Phil in the choir stand over there. I'm in the middle. Sister Chris was over here.
Yeah.
And so when I'm here, I'm home.
Yeah, of course.
But Pastor Fred, during my mentorship with him, I've told the story before, but I think it's good enough to hear again. He said, Ken, I think that you're good enough to probably be a school board member or council member or what have you. And I said, nah, Pastor. He said, yes. He said, just stick it with me. So for 7 years, I coattailed him to meetings and board meetings of United Way and contractors. And during that tenor time, I was working over at Charlotte Manor too. And we was talking about some schematics that was on the floor at the time, and we're looking through them. And he said, Brother Kenny, what do you think about that? Well, I was kind of surprised, because after 7 years, I didn't say anything, and then he called on me, and once I got my flow together, I was okay. And so I said, Pastor Fred, how come you picked that time to tell me to speak? He said, how many years has it been since you've been with me? I said, 7. He said, well, isn't that God's perfect number? And I said, wow. So, Shiloh means a lot to me. Its growth has been a part of this community for more years than I've been around. And it hasn't missed a beat. If anything, it's got better with the community and the involvement. It was always Pastor Fred blessing and vision for Charlotte Manor. And then when he passed on the baton to Pastor Phil, he knew it was in good hands. And the blessings are showing. So I'm just glad to be a part of it. Love doing what I do, and will continue to stay doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, thank you, Kenny. Now, you worked at the Shiloh Manor 20 plus years, and I'm going to come back to you in a minute. I want to give Mayor Sal an opportunity to share a little bit about his experience with not only my father, but with Shiloh over the years.
Well, churches are important to a community, and as mayor, I look at Shiloh as being one of the finest community churches we have because you're so involved in the community. Whether it's building housing like Shiloh Commons or the homes that you build around here, or having the chapel available for community events, the showers for the homeless. I mean, your involvement in the community goes back as testament to your father. Pastor Fred, I will always remember, probably for some personal reasons, of the advice that he gave me as a young mayor, 31 years old when I took office. I mean, I was like Phil, we were both very young in our careers, and I think the fact that he gave me an outgoing, when I lost the election in 91, it was Shiloh that had a banquet for me and a dinner, and the advice he gave that night was, don't worry, you did good for the city, and that's what it's all about. And I think if I have to say anything about Shiloh, the greater Shiloh has done well for the city, not just their own community, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, Sal. Thank you. So Tina, now you come along kind of more under the leadership that we have going now. Can you talk a little bit about the partnership that Shiloh has been able to form with the County of Northampton and how that has kind of helped to impact our local community?
Of course, I'm happy to. I'm Tina Smith. I'm the Director of Community and Economic Development for Northampton County. And I am filling in this evening for our County Executive McClure, who unfortunately wasn't able to be here, but I was happy to take this on because I can tell you firsthand that Shiloh is a friend. And as Mayor said, not just to the city, but to the county as a whole. We've had a multitude of things during COVID that we would not have been able to handle and accomplish and take care of our residents within the county without their assistance. Namely, we had our CMED ERAP program, which helped to prevent homelessness. We needed assistance of an agency for intake to meet with those folks who were in desperate need, and the first person I thought to call was Pastor Phil, and I said,
But I'm like, wait a minute, what is an ERAP and what are we supposed to do?
but that's the true spirit, right? So, God bless them, they never say no. Anything we need as a county to take care of our residents and put forth these great community programs, they are our tried and true partners, and we couldn't be more blessed to have them to be able to work with from a county perspective.
Great, thank you for that. Phil, so as when you were a young up-and-coming mayor, you saw the impact of the church and the kind of things that the church was doing. What do you think that a church that is community-minded, how does it impact the city in your mind?
Well, it's a
Microphone.
The impact for the Greater Shiloh Church in the community was very positive. It was very positive for the community, and also Pastor Fred, your dad, was so helpful in pulling together the other pastors from the African American churches. And that's not easy, as we know.
Amen.
We all came together, and then Mayor Sal followed up with wonderful initiatives, and it was certainly far beyond Southside Easton. And you've just been expanding from there. I was here at the service last weekend, and
Thanks
it's
for coming to church too. That was
oh, you're
great
welcome.
to see you there.
Yeah, I need it. And but it's very inspirational here that I haven't found in many churches, and it's just a very powerful, positive impact, not just on us as individuals, for the community. So that leadership that you and your family have provided, and other members here, just we couldn't do it without you for the community.
Thank you for that, Kenny. Now, you were a part of the vision, right? So working over at the Shiloh Manor, what was that like for you? Because it was, like, number one, they first said it'll never happen.
Yes.
Right? No black church is going to build
Yes.
58 units of senior citizen home in a little old town called Easton with a 22,000, members of people living in the community, and yet it actually happened. And happened in a way that out of all the people that applied, the board and my father settled on you as the person to lead that Shiloh Manor, who has had raving reviews since that under your leadership as a director prior to you leaving. So what was it like for you to kind of be a part of that vision?
First and foremost, Pastor Fred said it was going to happen. It was going to happen.
It was going to happen, absolutely.
So I believed in that. And one of the things I always told myself when I worked at Shiloh Manor, do not treat it as a job, but treat it as a ministry. And so every day I look forward to going in. Every day was something different. Every day I knew that I was representing not just myself, but the Greater Shiloh and Pastor Fred. So it was just a great experience. I learned so much because I came in. It was brand new.
Brand new.
You had to hit the ground running and learn. And I always tease people about HUD. I always say the 66 books in the Bible, then came HUD. Because it's an eternal change every day.
Yeah.
But over the years, I met some of the greatest seniors in my life.
Yes.
And my grandmother, who passed when she was 93, I believe it was, lived there for her last 5 years. And I remember her turning to me and saying, son, these were the best 5 years of my life.
Isn't that something special?
Yeah, it was special.
Yeah.
It was special. And she couldn't say no wrong, But Pastor, it was an honor to serve over there as a director for the 26 and a half years that I was there.
That's amazing.
And even now, if that phone rang and they need me for anything, they know I'll be there.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I think that, when we think about Shiloh Manor happening and then right behind it, the Shiloh Estates happening, and that was all right around the same time that the church burned down. If you remember, back in 1992, 93, because Christina and I were supposed to be married in the church building, and that we went through that fire as well. Just all very difficult and challenging, traumatic stuff. But we remember how Pastor Fred led us through those traumatic moments and inspired us all that we can kind of keep going. Yeah.
I don't think, Pastor, when we went outside after the church burned, and I don't think we had a rain day.
We worshiped outside in the park, Mayor. Tina, we had to, because our church caught on fire. The whole summer we worshiped outside every Sunday, and not one Sunday did it ever rain on us.
Yes.
And then we moved inside, and we realized, this building is too small when we moved back in, because people were coming from all over the region to come. Mayor Sal, you've been our mayor through a few terms, and you've seen the impact of the church.
Your church, and I say your church because it is all the congregation's
Absolutely.
church,
Absolutely.
but has been an integral part of our community in so many ways. I can remember vividly when Al Sharpton came to town. It was not a good period of time. The champ brought him in after his brother had been arrested for the raid on his house, and all we knew was that Al Sharpton was coming to town, and wherever Al Sharpton went at that time, he was very insightful of rioting and demonstrations and everything. And I'm like 32 years old, and I'm like, God, I called the champ up. I said, Champ, what are you doing to me? But we had a wonderful, your dad orchestrated a group we met down at the First United Church of Christ, because it was where peace treaties were held and it was Revolutionary War Hospital. We met down there for the historic significance, but your father calmed the seas. I mean, everybody got along. We walked out, and to this day, he probably doesn't remember me anymore now, but back then when I would see him in Washington, Al Sharpton would say to me, he says, yeah, I know you. We didn't have a riot there. Because your church has always been a calmer of the seas. And no matter what the controversy is, and I've had a few, I took over after Phil twice. And we had a police department, and Phil was able to get that under control when he was mayor the second time. And I've benefited from that. We have a good police department now, but I can remember the police, they played our community basketball.
CIBL, absolutely, yeah.
Those things are really important, and hopefully we can get our police to do more of that, because I think that interaction with the church and church members, everybody knows that national studies have shown churches reduce crime, create volunteerism, because they not only volunteer here, then they get involved in our boards and commissions and they get active. Kenny ran for office. I mean, those are the things I think are important for a church, an active church. We have churches that we don't have any members. They don't come out to anything. Right. But your church is very involved, not just in church activities, but in community activities as well.
Right. Well, thank you, Mayor Sal. And that, I think that's all a testament to the body of believers that really have come in and become a part of our church. And they kind of fit into the culture. And when they ask, like, what are you about? We're about empowering the community. Look around your community, from the Nehemiah House to the Shiloh Manor to the States, to the food pantry, to the homeless shelter. All of that is about serving the people, what Jesus called the least of these. And that doesn't make them any less than us. It just means that they've fallen on hard times. And we say around here, but by the grace of God. Right, there go any of us. So the county stepped up along with the city, and when we acquired the Paradise Club with the hopes of building affordable housing units, the city stepped up with a very generous couple $100,000 to help us with this, and the county stepped up as well to make a commitment. What was that all about? I mean, because when we were talking to our developers, they said, normally you don't see cities and municipalities working together to try to, collaborate to bring something about that's going to really benefit all. So what was that about? And I know you're sitting in Lamont's seat, so you can speak for him.
I don't know that I can speak as well as he, but I'll try. But just knowing, living that right every day, that project lives inside community and economic development, and again, putting the C in community as our department does, I feel that you and the church absolutely do, taking on these initiatives that are not a church issue, nor really a community issue, right? Because housing needs, affordable housing, workforce housing is a national crisis right now.
It is.
But we're trying to do our best in partnership with the church, with the city, to bring this project to fruition. So we jumped on board immediately. I called county executive, and he's like, yes, let's do this. And so, we're blessed to be able to participate, and the county has allocated $500,000 for the Shiloh Commons project. Yeah. We're a proud partner, and we're certainly looking to, work with you going forward and seeing, where we can collect additional resources. But again, the partnership has been a blessing. We've come up with some crazy ideas along the way. God bless Pastor Phil. They have the winter shelter, which the county is also a part of, along with the city. And, we talked about how can we create the showers, right, as an obvious need for our homeless community. And, we had some internal conversations, and rather than putting the stress and pressure on the church facility, we came to the conclusion of these mobile showers. And so we were really blessed, again, to be able to participate and provide that as yet just another community service. Yeah. So we gush about you all the time.
Oh, that's cool. That's good to know. And let me say, and thank you for that, it doesn't happen without a city that's willing to stretch out, because you're talking about a community sometimes that is so marginalized that they're creating problems within the community. But being able to work together, we met with Chief Scalzo, we sat with yourself, Brother Kenny, Councilman Brown, and to see this collaboration means something. It means something not only to the church community, but it means something to the community, to see that folks can get along and find a way to, at the end of the day, serve the people that they were elected to serve. And that's a beautiful gift. So here we are, 119 years in, and you guys have been a part of this journey so much. What comes to mind? And we got a couple of minutes. So as we move towards Sunday, we're burning the mortgage on this, and I'll be sharing a great vision with the church about our community center, which is the phase 2 of this building: education, recreation, inspiration, and vocation. So the goal is to create a community center that incorporates all of that to be able to be a safe haven for our kids, provide job training, hopefully medical support and things of that nature for our community. Just kind of give me your thoughts on what you think, how you think that will impact our community.
You know, I want to jump in with something here that's just coming to mind hearing us, is that regardless of what's going on in Washington, D.C. or across this country, that's not going on in Easton. We all work together. We've all been Estonians a long time. And we find ways to be friendly and courteous and professional. And that's why things get done in this community, with the church, with the city, with council, with private sector doing the job. We work together.
Yeah, that's good.
And that's really important for this community and this city. And I think that's why we become, we can be proud that we're a shining light to others, and we're being used as an example of how to do things well.
And let me just echo on that. I believe that as you go forward in your vision, Pastor, that it's going to bring out wholesome kids with direction, because your program that you have set forth already is a testimony to your leadership. And that is one of the things I love, is that you get the kids out early looking at colleges. Because in our community, we need to do that.
Yes, sir.
We have to engulf them into knowing that they're going to college. I know in my household we had a saying, and I kind of quasi took it from JFK, but had a plaque up there that said, "Don't ask your parents if you're going to college, what college you're going to."
Which one? Right, that's good. Education is important.
Education.
That's
And I believe all that
Yeah.
recreation, sound mind, all that's going to come into comments when the vision is birthed.
That's good. Thank you. Sal, you give us our last thought. So,
The only thing
Mr.
I would
Mayor.
like to say is that your community center is going to be a wonderful addition to this end of the South Side, because the Boys and Girls Club, even though it's open to all of South Side and all of the city, it's located at the easternmost end of the South Side. So people that live on that end go there, and down at this end, I find that people don't have a place to go for kids. Getting kids off the street is so important to the quality of life that all the other neighbors have. In my last 4 years, which I've announced this is my last term, I want to build a community center in the West Ward.
Wonderful.
We have the East Area Community Center, which is a dinosaur building. I wish you well, and anything I can do for that would be helpful.
You can build yours on the south side. We got a piece of land right over here. No, thank you. Mayor Mittman, Councilman Brown, Mayor Panto, and Director Smith, thank you all so much for taking the time out and hang out with us. Yeah. And Sunday, 3 o'clock, we're hoping you're in the building to help celebrate the burning of our mortgage.
Thank you, Shiloh.
Yeah. We're going to shoot to a quick video, and we got some of our members who have been here to help us get to this place of 119, our vision committee that helped us get to the place where we could pay off the debt on this building. So we'll be right back right after the video.
I told my son when I was here a short time, I guess he was maybe 9. I'm thinking about 8 or 9, and we walked outside of the church, and I put my hand on his head, and I said to him, I said, "Look around you." And I wasn't even sure he understood what I was saying. I said, "Look around." I said, "In 10 years' time, you won't know this neighborhood, because a church is more than a spiritual hospital. The church should minister to the needs of the whole man." And I said, in 10 years, you'll see buildings and houses and senior citizens' home, and I had no idea how it was going to come about, but that was my vision and my dream for this congregation.
Reverend Davis's first decade as Shiloh's pastor marked an extraordinary period of activity. A wide range of church projects was initiated and realized under his energetic leadership and panoramic vision of what a modern urban church could and should be. A first order of business was the creation of a sound church infrastructure. This was to be partly achieved through the public ordination of 8 deacons: Jewel Gilbert, chairman of the board; George Brown, Alonzo Brown, Jesse Williams, Ernest Williams, Leroy Wright, Herbert Robinson, and William Earl Dorsey. This group of church leaders would help place the New Shiloh Baptist Church on a sound organizational footing, administratively and financially. A sign of the church's financial progress came in September 1980. Within 5 years, New Shiloh's mortgage had been paid off. This is the second time in the church's history that the congregation of exceedingly modest income people had eradicated its mortgage. The achievement signified members' willingness to sacrifice to achieve a major congregational goal.
Hey everybody, we're back, and I know you enjoyed the video, but now we want to invite some other guests on to the panel today. These are those who helped us get to this 119th anniversary. Some of these ladies served on the Vision Committee, and this gentleman over here is in charge of our finance, but I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So we'll start over here with my mom.
And can you say how long you've been at the church?
Yes, I will. My name is Michelle Ridley Washam. I've been here since 1987.
Wow.
And still going. Praise the Lord. And I am a personal assistant here at the church.
And aren't you somebody's mama?
Oh, and I'm her mama. All the time.
All the time. Mom.
My name is Deborah Harris, and I have been a member of Greater Shiloh since 1996.
My name is Noah Simmons. I serve here at the church as the Director of Operations / Finance Director, CFO, multiple titles, whichever you want to call me, I'll answer by. I've been a member of Greater Shiloh since 2003.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Catherine Benton, and I have been a member of Shiloh since 1981.
Wow.
Oh, Kat. You know, Kat was here, I feel like, when I got here. I was still in high school. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we'll say is that you don't get to 119 years alone. You get there because it's all of us or none of us, and we worked really hard, and some of you worked even harder putting together vision campaigns, building campaigns to raise money so that we can be in this wonderful geodesic dome that we're in. So tell us about your experience with the Vision Ministry and how that came about and some of the projects that you guys did. We'll start with Ms. Kat.
When the church had burned down and Pastor rebuilt the church, the first Sunday we went in, we were out. We were just so crowded. There was no room for us. So we said, you got to build a church. And so back in 1990, the fire was in 93. And I think it was the first campaign was in 98 when each family was asked to donate $1,500 or $1,000, and then it was $500, and then $250. And then the students were asked to donate $25 to $50 for 1 year. And that was the first campaign to raise money for this dome. And then we had several others, and the Vision Committee had a lot of the recommendations, but they came into effect, I think, after the dome was built.
Yeah.
And so one of the campaigns, and you can talk about it, Deb, because you were involved in it more than I was, but the leaf tree out on the wall, and then the $5,000 that families were asked to donate, and it would be returned to them after a certain period of time. I think it was in a year or two. The money was then returned to the families that donated that $5,000 to help burn some of the debt off of the mortgage so it wouldn't be that much interest. And then we had other campaigns along the way. Every year you were asked to donate something for the building fund. And then this another big campaign was when Oscar was in charge of the campaign for, we had to make some pledges, and we went through that campaign. Those are the big ones, but we had some fundraisers along the way.
We did. Yeah, we did.
Deb, share with us some of the fundraisers, because I remember the little banks that we had.
I got it. I've got it on my list, Pastor. I want to back up a little bit, though, and say, no, we started in what we refer to as the chapel now. I was leaving church one Sunday, fairly new member, and Victoria Allen Edwards ran up to me and said, Vicki, and she said, Pastor told me to ask you to be a part of the Vision Committee. And so we got started. And I hesitate to mention a lot of names because I'm sure I'm going to forget somebody, but Adrian and Bertha and Pearl and Miss Dodd. And yes, a lot of them have gone on now, but they were definitely a part. Billy Harris was definitely a part. But anyway, and then the opportunity when we got to donate the $1,500, we also got the opportunity to not take it back. Right. And a lot of us did that. So, and I call that an opportunity. The vision, one of the first things I think we started doing was we offered a pledge, and we offered different denominations, and we gave them a while, like a year and a half or 2 years to pay the pledge, whatever they had pledged to make. We also did a groundbreaking. Once we had raised enough money where we were ready to start on this church, we did a groundbreaking, and we had a lot of the dignitaries there, somewhere around here, wherever we set up a makeshift stage, and we all stood around, and
Is that when we sold the dirt?
I'm getting there, Pastor.
I remember we were selling dirt in bottles.
We sold dirt. I wish I had thought to bring it. We actually had ordered these cute little commemorative bottles, and we had some of the janitorial staff bring us dirt to our meetings, which was at the Enrichment Center. And we sifted dirt, and we filled those bottles, tied a little purple ribbon around it, and we sold dirt, and we made good money from that dirt. that was rich dirt. That was good dirt.
Soil.
We did a dedication ceremony after the groundbreaking, which included, again, a lot of our dignitaries, like our own Pastor Fred and Pastor Juanita were there. The mayor of Easton was there. Our guests were standing on these very grounds, actually, and we actually didn't miss any opportunities. We took election up there also. We were serious about making sure that this building was built. The banks. The banks were in the form of churches, and we gave each of the members an opportunity to come take a bank, and then we gave them a time frame to bring the banks back filled. And that was really a neat thing. Some of them brought the banks back and asked for another bank and another bank. One of the really neat things about that was our youth ministry. So the children wanted to get involved, and we wanted to make sure we included everybody. The children marched in and laid their banks. Those that didn't have banks laid their jars, jelly jars, baby food jars, whatever, on the altar. And I remember little Rennie McClendon. She had been saving before we started that project, and she had a really tall jar of coins. And she said, I want to take it to the church, and I'll never forget that. She brought hers. So, and we did that several times. So, and again, just to get everybody involved. We hosted several concerts. I can't remember everybody that
Ron Canoli,
came.
I remember.
That's the name we were trying to think of. Yes.
Shirley Caesar came.
Shirley Caesar. We hosted Dr. Maya Angelou at Lafayette College. Yes. I was trying to think of it. And the tree that you mentioned. And I hesitate to call it a memorial tree because some of the names that went on there, these people were not deceased, but still in memory of them. And I think we sold every brick, every stone, I think every leaf is full. And one of the other really neat things we did, and this was after the church was built, we knew we needed to still keep raising, keep raising money so we could stay here and be where we are today. We would do the Mother's Day tea, and this was outside. And it was very neat idea, really, really beautiful. And it was very creative. The women would agree to host a table, and they would bring their fine china out and decorate. Yes, we had speakers, a lot of different speakers. Our Pastor Juanita, Sharon Scott, and a lot of others. We had violin players that would play as you were coming up. Some of our youth members would play the piano. We did a lot of things, again, to make sure that a lot of people, as many as we could, get involved. But we celebrated the mothers, and one of the really neat ideas that Pastor Fred came up with about the second or third year we were doing the Mother's Day tea, he said, this is a good opportunity to announce the mothers of the church. And so we did that several times. But again, we got the word, we got music, we had fashion shows, we had a good time. One of my fondest memories, though, this was before the church was built and before all the furniture was in. I was early to a meeting, which I'm usually always early, but I was early to a meeting one day, and Pastor Fred said, you want to walk over and see the progress that's being done? So he and Pastor Juanita and myself came over. And Pastor Juanita, you guys will remember, at the chapel, which was our church then, the Holy Ghost would hit her and she'd run around the church. She'd start running. I remember walking in here and I said, Pastor, this church is too big for you to be running around. So those are just a few of the things that we did to get to where we are today.
Thank you. Wow.
Well, let's just take a minute and talk about the years before we transitioned to this building and the momentum that was building before we got here in unity and growth and excitement. Mom, tell us about your experience and what you felt during that time.
Before we got over here, we had so many things. I believe that was the Shiloh Estates, it was 97. Every initiative that we were doing was leading up to the fact of how we needed to build a new church. And I remember Pastor walking in one day and saying, they want to build a new church. I'm not sure I can build a new church. I want to go to Florida and retire. And then he walked in one day and it was like a revelation. He was like, you know, we thought about this building of a new church. He said, we got a bunch of land sitting over there. And I said, you mean the land sitting over there? He said, yeah, that one over there with just because at that time it was nothing but weeds and growth and animals, and God only knows what else was going on. And we just both started laughing. I'm like, that's a lot of land over there. The key thing about that was, as the momentum was that land had been taken by the Redevelopment Authority, and it was coming back. We had it in our possession to do whatever we want. And there were so many thoughts about it, like we can build stores there, but God wanted us to build a church. So there were so many things that were going on in this tiny little office where we worked over in the church, that every time something new would come up, we were saying to ourselves, we're getting ready to build a new church. We need a new church. Yeah. I mean, the need for it was just so profound. And so I'm so glad to be a part of it, because every time I thought about, I had never worked with someone whose ideas flowed like what Pastor, but this is when you talk about vision, how vision just flowed. And you didn't have things always written down. You didn't have a book to tell you how to do it, but it just happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
It happened. That was God.
Ms. Cat, what do you think about the momentum, the excitement that was going on at that time?
I can remember being in the church over there, and you could feel the church bounce.
Yeah.
Just singing, and it was just so exciting. And the church was just growing, and the people were coming. And I contribute that to Pastor Juanita with her Tuesday noonday prayer. When all these people from New Jersey, from the north, the east, the south, and the west wonder how they got through, Pastor Juanita prayed them here. And that is how the church just grew and grew. And it was like we were busting at the seam. And when Pastor finally decided we're going to build a church, it was like, oh, so much. And then people, you know, it wasn't hard to buy into something because when that chapel was built over there, it was the first black church that had ever been built in the city of Easton. The first one. So it wasn't hard for me to believe that this dome would not be built because I was one of those naysayers. They'll never build that church back because I was a member of Union AME when it was torn down. But I saw what God can do. And now I know that when Pastor said we was going to build the church, it was going to happen because the people were there and everybody was excited about it. I can't remember one person saying, don't build this church. It was just an exciting time to be in the body of Christ in that.
It was more like how fast, when's the church going to be built?
Yes.
Go in.
It was really electric.
Yes.
Every Sunday, you came to church and you didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
Like, there would be new people. There were young people coming in. 78 got
Two
built.
services.
So people 9/11 happened, right?
Yes.
And there was a large exodus out of New York and northern Jersey for people seeking almost asylum here in Pennsylvania. So all of those things collided at one time, and we just happened to be a really safe place, when all that was going on. At one time, we did have three services.
Three services,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
And we had the TVs in the foyer.
Yes.
We got so crowded that we had TVs in the foyer, so for those who couldn't come into the sanctuary, they were there. And we just got kicked out all the time. Take the youth and go downstairs.
Yes.
So Noah, you came and you saw, you participated, you were part of this journey from kind of day one. In some ways, you were volunteering in multimedia, you were volunteering in certain places, you were volunteering on the finance ministry.
You had a whole lot of jobs.
You've watched this thing become. He was coming from a church in Rochester, New York. And you were a youth literally coming out here to participate in our youth programs. Talk a little bit about your experience and what you saw.
Yeah, so I call myself an involuntary member since like 97, but I officially became a member in 2003, but I came to know about Greater Shiloh in 1997 when I was in high school. My sister and my brother-in-law relocated to the area, and they were just telling us about the church, and we're like, what is going on in Easton? I didn't even know nothing about Easton. Couldn't even find it on the map. But it was such a buzz and excitement when I got here. It was unreal, just like everything you said and described it more. I remember walking in the door as a young kid and just seeing someone that said, I remember my brother-in-law, he woke us up 8 o'clock that morning. He said, all right, now, I'm not going to be late. If you get to church late, you're not going to get a seat. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Not believing it, but when I got there and I started seeing for myself that if you didn't get there on time, you would not get in. You had to get there like an hour early just to get a seat, just to be able to get in the building. And I just was mesmerized about, the excitement of people just wanted to come to church and wanted to be part of something great. It just really inspired me. And one of my also fondest moments is when you guys relocated from that building from the chapel over to here. And I remember that day vividly when you guys marched over and just seeing the amount of people wrapped all around Canal Street, up and down Monshunk and stuff. For me as a young teen, it made me cry. It was just so beautiful sight to see thousands of people hundreds or thousands of people marching into a new building and with the excitement of something great and what's going to happen.
Hey, the cool part is it wasn't just the members of Greater Shiloh. It was the whole community that marched with us.
The dome really does stand out.
Yes.
In our city. But Noah, from a leadership perspective, Sister Kat and Sister Deb talked about some of the things that we've done, but kind of give some context to that. There were campaigns to get us into the building. Yeah. But one of the things that was really heavy on my dad's heart before his, transition was we got to pay the debt on this building off. Yeah. Like, we don't want to carry this debt for the full 30 years that we came into, to do that. So the $5,000 that was asked to be given was given so that we could put principal down on that building. Can you talk
Project-
a little bit
yeah.
about that?
Yep, Project Debt Free.
He keeps every email. He has emails from 1995.
He has receipts of everything.
Yes, I'm a hoarder of emails. But yes, just seeing the trilogy of all the campaigns the trilogy of all the campaigns that have inspired from the Project Debt Free of the promissory notes and to see, a predominantly Black American church to pay everybody back too as well within the time frame.
Actually do it.
Right,
And do it early.
Integrity.
To pay people when they're that just spoke to the integrity of the management and the stewardship of those funds. And then as Pastor mentioned, the funds to eliminate the debt became a burden of pastor, and then it also then became laid on Pastor Phil's heart of saying, I don't want to leave debt. We got into the building, but now what are we going to do to pay off this building? So we embarked in a couple of campaigns that I can recall. Ms. Kat Bennett mentioned the one by the Enjoy Stewardship campaign. Another one is Sow to Grow. Another one is Demolish the Debt. In those particular campaigns, we went before the congregation and asked for individuals to give increments of $50 a week or $100 a week. There was no mandatory amount of what you had to pledge to. It was a free will pledge, and whatever amount that was pledged, those amounts were applied to the additional principal of the payment. And as a young person and that was newly fresh behind the years into the finance ministry, I was mesmerized about the week after week of the response that was coming through from the congregate members of them giving above and beyond their pledges, and then just seeing the impact of what those pledges were doing to the principal balance of the mortgage, because we continued to pay our principal and our interest, but we did additional principal payments, which a lot of people know. Once you pay additional principal payments, it helps accelerate the payoff of your mortgage. So just seeing the impact of the statements, and I remember Mr. Michael Swint was coming to the finance meeting month after month and said, "Hey guys, we're down this. We just saved $50,000. We just saved."
Who was a huge part? Mike was absolutely the guy. He was the lead trustee and then a staff member as well. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So just the impact and just seeing the impact of those pledges and what it did, just the traumatic, the effect that it had with paying down this mortgage.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the number that was raised through all of those pledges was somewhere around $1.4 million. That we were able to pay down the principal. And you know what I'm saying? Like for us to be able to come together and do that, and then at some point, I think it was probably 2015 or 2016, I said, all right, no more capital campaigns until we pay this building off, and we won't even think about phase 2 until we can get this debt eliminated on this dome. It's just really, really powerful. Now, Coco, you were here all the way back, right?
All the way back.
You were the first staff member. When I came in, she was working on a typewriter, just a typewriter. We had one phone line, right? You watched this organization, the evolution, thank you, of the church evolve. Like, what was that like for you to just kind of be a part of that journey and to see where we are now?
It was
Mike.
I'm sorry. It was an experience that, I talk about it a lot with people because I came in, it was a tiny little office downstairs. And again, like you said, it was a typewriter, and I was fussing at myself because I was still using the papers to, the whiteout papers, that's it.
Whiteout.
To whenever you made a mistake, so I'd fuss about that. And you came in and you said to your father, "Dad, we need emails and we need a computer." And he came down and he had, his hand in his pocket, and he said, "Philip is telling me that we got to get a computer around here." He said, "You know how to do a computer?" I said, "Yes, I do." Yes. He said, "You do?" I was like, "Yeah, I do. I do laptops. I've done other things." I said, "I would love a computer." Yeah. We were happy to get a fax machine and the second phone line.
Yes,
when
Lord.
he said computer, I was jumping up and down. And so, watching this happen from this tiny, again, people don't think that they could see the growth of an African-American church, but this thing happened almost overnight and in front of your eyes, and it wasn't something that we did because you were so skilled. I never worked in a church before, and none of us knew what it was to expect. Again, you could call another church and ask them what were they doing. Nobody knew how to do this because you had to rely on what was going to happen and the faith that God was going to give you. So this was an awesome experience for me. That was the first thing. The second was watching the initiatives come to pass. I mean, we did other things that were going on, women's conferences that evolved, and youth conferences that evolved, that made this church become, build on the excitement that was coming. This is the things, because we were drawing people, couples events that were going on. These are the things that drew people to the church because they didn't have any place else to go. They didn't have these kinds of things in their life. They were happy to come to a church and have these kinds of things to look forward to. Christmas parties. They were, oh, could we do this and could we do that? These things they didn't see in other churches. I would have the young children that would say to me, how comes when I talk to my friends, their church doesn't have all these things? They say, why are you going to church? He said, they're saying, because we have this event going on. They're saying, why doesn't their church have that? And I was like, I can't answer your question. But I'm saying that to say that we were always doing something. I made a little joke with your father once, and I said, why can't we, instead of being Shiloh Baptist Church, why don't we just be Shiloh Busy Church?
Shiloh Busy Church.
Busy Church. I know, that sounded really,
The Greater Shiloh Busy Church.
Because we just never had a moment. We were always constantly doing something. There were nights that there was always something going on, and I didn't mean to,
I was just going to say that we had the privilege of walking in some really big shoes with your mom and dad, with Pastor Fred and Pastor Juanita. And the one thing that we maintained is a mindset that we didn't have to create a new vision. We just needed to continue the vision. So when I think of the legacy that Pastor Fred and Pastor Juanita have left for us, I call it the gap effect. It is putting your God and your assignment equal purpose. Just having that gap effect where you know that you're doing what God has purposed you to do, and that's the legacy that they left with us, to just keep the vision going. And you've done that, sir.
Thank you. Can I borrow that gap effect thing? That was good, right? God plus assignment equals purpose. That was good. Yeah, come on, give me that. Yeah. But the honor is to be able to see the legacy still live. And for all of you who have been a part of that, you stuck with us through some very challenging ups and downs. We were young leaders. We didn't know what we were doing. We were,
Thank you for being patient.
Thank
while
you for being
we
faithful
matured
and patient.
And
I
grew.
just want to say, y'all going to have to put me out.
And that'll never happen, Miss Cat, forever.
I'm here.
And so we're going to transition to our next session. We've got some of our young emerging leaders who might have come along a little bit later, but they're carrying the mantle and carrying us into the next generation. And so we want to say thank you to each of you for giving up your time and your effort for us. All right, we're going to transition to a quick video. We'll be right back.
By the time of the move into the new sanctuary, Pastor Fred knew it was time for a change in the church's leadership. It was time for the congregation's Moses to seek his replacement, a Joshua, to continue to lead the flock onward and upward. Pastor Davis had labored in Shiloh's vineyard for 3 fruitful decades, and once Greater Shiloh had opened its doors, he began to methodically prepare for the change. The first step was taken in July 2004. Youth Pastor Philip Davis, who had been carefully groomed for leadership at the highest level, was promoted to the position of assistant pastor. Then 3 months later, in anticipation of his retirement, Pastor Davis appointed a search committee in September 2004 to identify a worthy candidate to serve as his successor. God had given them wisdom to have a covering in place before giving up the church's pastorship. In another 3 months, in December 2004, the search committee came back with a recommendation, which was presented at a business meeting to the church body. With great enthusiasm, the congregation voted to accept his recommendation that Assistant Pastor Philip Davis be appointed the church's senior pastor once the pastorship became vacant. In March 2005, in the course of another 3 months, Pastor announced that Pastor Phil would be installed as senior pastor that June.
Hey everybody, we're back again with another set of guests. And this set of guests are unique because our first 15 years of serving here at Greater Shiloh Church, we were honored to be the youth pastors or the youth leaders
And young adult.
And we got to pour in to their lives, and seeing them as emerging leaders is just a blessing because we can see the fruit of our labor. We can see all of the giftings that we knew were inside of them now emerging and exploding in their lives now. And now it's time to put y'all to work. So we're excited about that. But we're going to just take a minute and let you introduce yourselves so you can tell us who you are and how long you've been here.
My name is Marcus. I've been here since 2008.
And is that your beautiful wife?
This is my beautiful wife. Yes.
My name is Daisy, and I have been here since 2001.
And we got to marry y'all, right?
Yes.
We married all of them.
2005, not 8. Sorry, 2005. She corrected me.
You're better than me because I don't remember the year. I probably was in like second grade.
You were a little one.
So it's been a long time, but I'm Tyree.
I'm Marquita, his wife. I've been here since 2001, 2002.
Y'all was like in the 10th grade or something. Huh?
Yep.
They've been in love since they were little kids.
I'm Neray Simmons, and I have been a member here since 1998, so more than half of my life.
Nice. And Noah Simmons, I introduced myself earlier.
Right, because you gave 2 dates. You were like 1997, but legit 2003. Yeah.
Well, since 2003, but I've been unofficial.
Did you complete
I've been
the 10
bootlegging since 97.
Well, I think it's so great that we have had an opportunity to be your youth leaders, to marry you, to bless your children, and to see you guys just grow and develop in so many ways. I remember Tyree, when he was a young man, he would walk around carrying a briefcase at about 10 years old. And you're coming to youth group, not a book bag, but he had a briefcase, and it was a nice one too. And he would say then, I'm gonna be a lawyer. And now he is, and he's one of the best attorneys in the Lehigh Valley, and we're so proud of you. As well as we're proud of all of you, but I just remember this little briefcase. He wouldn't put it down. Don't touch it. Nobody touch his briefcase. It was going to be a fight, but we've had an opportunity to be a part of all of your lives. So tell us about your experience and what it feels like to be here and to be at this point where we're burning the mortgage, because you grew up in this church.
I love this church. And you said that you had the pleasure of being our youth pastor and then our pastor. And I would say that we have had the pleasure of being under you. You guys have been such an example to us in every area of our lives and every season of our lives. So we're blessed to still be here. I ain't going nowhere, you know. And yes, I'm really excited about this next season for what God is doing in Shiloh, and I'm even more excited that I get to do it under you.
And I definitely second that. Shiloh is home for me. It was my second home pretty much. Well, y'all know when we were here, teens, this is pretty much where I lived. If I wasn't at school or at home, this is where I was at. It's just awesome to be at this point and just to see the growth and the progression. The culture hasn't changed. It always still feels like home. We still have that small family feel. So I love that even though things are advancing and things are progressing and you all are always looking for new ways to serve and to do more, that the culture hasn't changed. And I think that that's important, and I think that's what keeps people here. I think that's what draws people here, is because they are able to connect and to grow here. Another reason is that you all teach us how to be well-rounded individuals. Y'all teach us the Word of God, Christ first, salvation. That's important. We know that you all are going to do that, but you teach us how to be professional. Pastor's always talking about going to work on time and not being late for things. You teach us how to be well-rounded individuals and not just church. We're able to minister to friends. I've brought so many friends here to church and invited so many friends to church. just growing up, because you all just taught us how to be well-rounded in all areas and not just be super churchy, but to be able to relate to people, to connect them, to draw them to Christ.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback on that is that I always say that I came to Shiloh as a boy, but I became a man here. I've learned about how to be a man in my household, as to be a better father, to be a great husband. I've learned about budgets. I've learned about finances. I've learned about a lot of things under the tutelage of you and Pastor Phil and Pastor Christina. You guys have been great mentors and teaching us practical things in life that we've been able to take those practical things and be able to expand upon those things to get us to the levels and the careers and the places that we are in our life.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to chime in right quick because I can go back so far to the fact of like the BOSS program and coming of age program. So there were things we were learning here at church that we weren't getting taught even at school, which is just crazy when you say it out loud to think that when you mention budgeting and finance and things of that nature, we were learning that in coming of age. We were learning that in BOSS, but the schools probably to this day still aren't teaching people kids about checkbooks and things of that nature. Barely teach them cursive anymore, you know. So it's like, so we learned so much here, and this place was definitely like a second home. Because, well, one, my parents were so overly involved in so many things. So it was like out of school, straight to church kind of thing, you know. If it wasn't football practice or something, it was here. But then I remember, too, serving as like a temple servant back in the chapel. And Sister Kat Bennett brought up how packed this place would be. Well, I remember enjoying putting chairs down, so like carrying them, lining the aisles to the point to where we had to open the side door. It wasn't so much that we just had to put TVs out in the vestibules. We had to open the side door, you know, and people just were coming out to hear the word of God. And I don't know, it was just an awesome experience to be able to be a part of all of that to where we are now.
And to even see the transition, I remember when we were teenagers at the time, before the ground broke, we used to come over here every Sunday and stand on the dirt on the land before it was even built, and we would all just pray every week. So to be able to be in that place and see when it was just dirt, and just to see all of the ministry, to see the building go up and the progression and everything since then, it's just been amazing to see. And to be able to burn a mortgage and to pay off a mortgage, I mean, people don't even do that a lot of times in their lifetime. So I'm excited just for the church, just as if it was me paying off my own mortgage, because that's a huge accomplishment. So I'm proud to be a part of this ministry. I think that my life has been blessed because I'm connected to this ministry, and I've learned so much.
That's pretty awesome. I think one of the things that I remember very vividly, when this building was being built, my good friend Pastor John Gray was here, and we were having a youth conference over in the chapel. And he was so excited that we were building this new building. In the middle of the youth conference, he's like, "Let's all run to the new building." Y'all remember this? There were no lights in here. It was a cement pad.
Cement, wires
the
everywhere.
dome was up, and they're running around in this building with no light. All I could do was pray. I'm like, somebody's going to die tonight. I'm running around.
And then the police came and shined lights everywhere.
You know, but like the excitement was so intense that we weren't even, I was worried, but nobody else was worried. Like we were having a really great moment. But Teens in Unity, y'all used to come over in this building and pray. TIU. Like there was nothing in here, and y'all after service would come over here and pray. You wrote names of your family members, and you're on the concrete under this thing, and literally we had a chance to watch that happen, and that was overwhelming for us as youth ministers to see there is a group of young people who really love God, you know, and are really committed to this process.
Yeah, when Noah talked about being a responsible man, think about the word debt-free. Y'all can understand that now, right?
Yes,
you can understand that. We are burning the mortgage on this building, and we are going to be debt-free on this building. Wouldn't you like that at home, all of us?
Glory to God.
The blessing in that, how does that feel, and how does this moment communicate to the next generation, to your children? How does this moment communicate?
It makes me feel incredibly proud. And when you share that story about us coming over here, at the time my son was 2, and he was at a youth conference because I was a teen, and he was up here, you know, confused, but still in the mix of everything that was going on that night. And, you know, and now my son has gone from a 2-year-old, we came here, he was 9 months old, and from a 2-year-old to now being a young man and, you know, in finance. And these are because of the seeds that you all planted in us. I didn't know what I was doing, but you couldn't tell me I was grown. Y'all remember I used to walk around, I'm grown at 18 years old.
That was Daisy. But the thing was, now he's working on his master's degree.
Exactly.
In finance.
And I didn't even finish college. But again, it's because of the seeds that you all planted in me, the sacrifices of the late nights and showing me how to be a mother and how to be a woman, and then getting married and teaching me how to be a wife. Like Neray said, I worked at the church for 12 years. I learned so much working here in that administrative office. Like, I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for the seeds that were planted in me. So I'm proud, I'm grateful, and I'm excited for where we're going.
Well, if I can just kind of, and thank you for that. I want to interject because we used to have, I don't know if you remember, we would have this reading contest every year.
Every year.
And every year,
summer reading.
And every year your son would win the reading contest. $200 I think he would get every year.
And then there were some times, because so many kids would participate, other people would donate to that. I remember one year he got like $400 from doing a reading, and that was second place.
Yeah.
I think it's a testament to the level of consistency and the spirit of excellence here, you know? Like, not even just completing it, but the time frame that it was completed in is just like a beautiful thing to witness, you know? You know, a lot of people do the bare minimum, so to see in real time this church, like, not just talk about excellence, but to execute it on a high level. Like, no, we're not just gonna do the bare minimum. We're gonna pay above what we need to pay to get it done sooner and actually do it, to stand on it and do it. It's unbelievable. Like, this is not a small feat. Like, this building is huge. The mortgage was huge.
36,000 square feet.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a beautiful thing to see, you know, and so to be able to, like, live through that, like, as an entrepreneur, like, it's just, it's such an encouraging thing about being able to have delayed gratification and just the reward that comes with that, you know, so I appreciate you guys for sticking to the plan, for sure.
So good.
I'll say for me it's inspirational. Just seeing, like as Marcus mentioned, the effects of being able to pay down a mortgage 10 years earlier than the maturity date, it inspires me at my home. I'm saying, oh, wow, if the church can do what I can do in my personal finances, so for me, it's inspirational. So I want my kids to be here. I want them to see it, because the same way I'm going to celebrate and scream and come back to work Monday with a hoarse throat, I'm going to probably get screaming and just excited when I pay off my mortgage at my house early.
Yeah, I would definitely piggyback off what everyone else says. To be under y'all leadership for me has been life-changing. You know, to come here as a teen mom, and I felt like you guys never judged me. You never turned your back on me. You would, when I was going through it, you know, Pastor Christina, you would answer the phone 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, pray with me, talk me down off the ledge, because I can get a little ratchet. So I appreciate that in you. And then, like, to see that you guys are paying this mortgage off early and seeing all the fruit that this church has steady coming in, is like, okay, this is where I want to be. As much as we may talk about leaving, one of the biggest reasons why we don't leave Easton or Pennsylvania is because, like, where am I going to find this? Your transparency, your desire to outreach, I don't know, I've learned how to be a mom. I learned how to be a wife, how to ride for your man through everything, just by being under y'all. And so I think just being here and everything that's happening here, where else would you find this? So I love being under your leadership. I love that my kids are growing up in this church. I love that my best friends are in this church. Like, I love it.
Yeah, it's awesome. I sometimes joke about, joke about, you know, going south, I want to get away from the snow. But when I think about when I was south for law school, the toughest thing about being in North Carolina was finding another church. And you wouldn't think that'd be the case, being in the South and thinking you're like, black churches are probably everywhere type of thing. You should just, you should just stumble into one. I mean, Billy Graham, it's going to be right there. You're going to find a church. No, that was tough. I think I went to about 7 churches before I finally felt like, all right, this is about as close I'm going to get to Shiloh, so just suck it up type of thing. It was just really kind of crazy. But getting back to like the stewardship of this church, like I try to apply it in my own life, and I am serious about making sure that things are paid off in that fashion. So I'm just super duper excited that this is happening. Even something to just show my children, just how to be a good steward. They watch me give every Sunday or whatever the case may be. They want to tithe off their little allowances and things of that nature. And I'm just like, sow your seed, name your seed, and watch it and watch the harvest come. And I think that's what we were able to do here, and I think that's pretty cool to be able to show like the next generation, like, the Bible come to life. That's really what it is. Because so often, so many people don't see it come to life. But for me, I got to see it come to life so many times, and I think it's pretty awesome to be able to pass that along. Yeah.
Just one more thing, because Marquita, you spoke about transparency, and just for you all being transparent leaders and sharing your stories and being able to connect, but also I think a big part as far as it relates to paying down the mortgage, your transparency with the members about where we were with the finances and where we were with the progress of paying that down. That does not happen at churches. You don't hear about it, you don't see about it. I think that created the excitement, and people were able to buy in because you can see the progress, you see where your dollars are going. You have a fund, and then you actually see things happen. You see upgrades to the building, and that level of transparency on the financial level, I think, allowed people to really connect and get excited.
Well, you guys are the emerging leaders, and you are not the church of tomorrow, but you're the church of today. And when you think of the future of Greater Shiloh and what's next, what do you see and what do you think we need to be doing in this next season?
I mean, I think it's happening. I think it's happening. I think there are people like us putting our hands to the plow, whether it be connecting with our peers, young adults, raising up the kids. I feel like a fresh wind is happening there too, so I think we're walking in it and living in it now, like you said, like you're the fruit of the labor you see with us, and so it's up to us to pay that forward,
For me, I'm going to piggyback off what Marcus said, and then also to what Mayor Sal Pinto said, just seeing a center for our young kids. I see my young son that's really engaged and really active, and just seeing a safe place for him, that he doesn't have to be involved with illegal activity or be solicited into a gang or solicited into the drug game, being able to have a safe space. And this is what I was benefited from as a young person, being able to be in church, although as Tyree mentioned, coming up as a pastor's son, I lived in church. So it became a safe space for me. So I see that same thing for my son, being him, having, as what Marquita mentioned, is having friends and having community of friendships, of godly friends, of people that they can continue to be accountability partners with one another as they grow up.
In addition to more programming for youth, I think there's definitely a need for counseling services. I don't think it's coincidence that you're becoming Dr. Phil. I think
Dr. Phil.
Yes. Since the pandemic, I mean, I work in higher ed, and we've seen a spike of just issues with mental health, and there is a need for counseling. And I think that in our community, in the Black community, a lot of times it's shunned. But I think having even like a faith-based counseling, that's going to be on the rise. We have so many more members. We have a lot of this is a young church. We have a lot of young people in this church. We have a lot of children in this church who are going to also need those services. So I see that somehow working into it as well.
Thank you for that encouragement.
I keep thinking about Pastor Fred, and I've had the privilege of being here as he was the pastor and then you becoming the pastor, and the word was the vision continues. And I feel like that vision will continue, and the vision was for us to be a pillar in the community, for us to not just be a church and come in here and stay in the four walls and do ministry here, but outside. So like Noah said, the community center, therapy services, you know, I just see that we will continue. And the vision doesn't change. We just keep building and putting more blocks on top of that and just taking Easton where it needs to go and impacting ultimately this region and the world.
Yeah. No, I think some of the things that could be next, I envision a full-on homeless shelter. That's not, you know, that's bigger than what, you know, because we already got the showers going. We do it through the winter. I feel like Shiloh's going to be able to do that. We're going to continue to impact the community. I think that, like, Daisy just hit the nail on the head. Like, the vision continues. You know, we're going to keep running with it, you know, write it down, make it plain. For those, I mean, that's what we're living, and I think it's awesome, again, bringing the Bible to life. And I think that's what we do here at Shiloh, and done it for a long time, honestly. So I do see the community center, a center for the youth to actually be at and things of that nature. I see the homeless shelter, which is just more than just a homeless shelter. There's counseling services attached to the homeless shelter. Having a physical address is going to give you the ability to have a job, and I think that, like, so I envision like a homeless shelter where it's kind of hotel status almost, in the sense that your room number is your address, you know. So like, you know, so now you're not just in a building and not growing from that, because everything we do it with a vision for you to grow. Like you say, you know, built for growth. So everything it is that we do, it's going to be to better that person's life, and I think that we're just going to continue with our hands to the plow, doing the work of God, and I'm excited to be a part of it. Yeah.
Well, I get to go to sleep and wake up to the visionary of this house, and I also had the pleasure of being under Pastor Fred. And when I tell you that I think he cloned himself in his son, and I am so honored to not just hear the vision that God gives you, but to see the vision come to pass. I get to hear it sometimes before you guys get it. He vets it through me. And sometimes I'm like, well, think about that. Let's think about that.
She's so gracious. She doesn't say that's a horrible idea. She's like, maybe you want to change it a little bit.
Okay, well, let's just tweak it a little bit. And then I get to be a part of envisioning with him when he shares it with me. So I just want to say, as your wife, like, how proud I am of you as the pastor of this, the senior pastor of this church, and how you lead us and how you expand our, not just our vision, but our faith. To believe that all things are possible with God. And I just wanted to just take a minute and just big you up. I mean, you're my boo, but I just wanted to big you up and tell you that as a parishioner, I'm just as proud to be under your leadership as everyone else is. Yeah, you make it happen, sir. You do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so this is going to be that moment where I say I couldn't do half of what I do if I didn't have you. We watched my mother and father, and people would always talk about how great my father was, but they didn't understand the moments of doubt, the moments of fear, the moments of questioning, that he would find faith from his wife. And I get that from you on more than a few occasions. So thank you. I couldn't do this if it wasn't for you.
I'm glad we're doing it together.
Yeah, amen. All right, we got a quick question. What is the next vision for the church? Lenora, you are a woman of God. So Sunday,
come on, sir,
you will see the presentation of phase 2. We have a rendering, a picture that was actually created in 2017. We went to our architect and we asked him to freshen it up and to bring it back. So there are 4 components of phase 2: inspiration, recreation, what's the other one? Education. And vocation. The idea of being able to create a space for our community that will change lives.
Well, now we need a hotel.
Yeah.
A hotel homeless shelter.
I don't have a shun
yeah,
for
I
a
got
hotel.
that.
But it was
it
was the original vision, right?
Yeah.
And so that homeless piece, it's funny. I was joking with Elder Noah the one day, and the Lord asked me a question. I was just kind of brushing my teeth, hanging out, and I heard this in my heart. And it was like, what if where you want to put the Paradise Clubs become Paradise Club Shiloh Estates Commons becomes just a homeless shelter. And I was like, yeah, no, Lord, I don't. And no funding with a homeless shelter. Where, you know. So that was a joke. I mean, I did say no, but I didn't mean no. I was like, okay, whatever you say, you know, your will be done. And so who knows, right, what God's going to do. But it's people like you all and all of the people that were here today that give us the faith and the courage, watching you all grow and become family and just raise your kids and to become leaders in the church encourages us, because my father got a chance to watch it in us and we get a chance to watch it in you. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I believe the vision definitely continues. Yeah.
And for all the guests that joined us today, from the politicians to the Vision Committee to all of you, thank you so much for doing this with us, for trusting us enough to lead you to the next season and to the next level. We're not done yet. No. We ain't done yet. Y'all ready?
Yeah.
Get ready. We got more to do, and you haven't seen even a glimpse of what God is going to do.
To all of our folks and friends who are joining us, we hope that you can join us Sunday at 3 o'clock. It's going to be a party.
Yes, it is.
And we're going to burn this mortgage, and we're going to celebrate the faithfulness of God and the faithfulness of God's people to bring us to this point. I think the last time we burned a mortgage in this church was probably like 1980. It was the mortgage across the street. And so we will celebrate God's goodness. We're going to cast some vision about where we're going. We're going to put it out there in front of the people. But don't just wait till Sunday. Come hang out with us Friday night. It's going to be, Encounter Night is going to be amazing. Time of worship, a time of giving God praise, a time of honoring God. Then Saturday is Serve Day. We're going to be in Easton downtown, up at the Circle. We're going to be down by the river. We're going to be in Bethlehem at the Seatown, Stroudsburg at an undisclosed location up in Stroudsburg. But come hang out with us. This weekend is about celebrating and serving.
And don't forget Sunday morning.
Oh, of course. Yeah, you can. It's the 119th anniversary.
Yeah, and
Thank
not
you.
only are we having our 119th anniversary, but we're also going to
Ordain.
elevate and ordain some deacons and some ministers and elders. So it's going to be a big celebration all weekend long.
Weekend long. And then Monday is our 30th wedding anniversary. So happy anniversary, baby. Like, why did we do it on September 25th? But, you know, nobody warned us. But let me say a word of prayer and thank you all for taking the time to chime in with us. Lord, we just honor you for this time. We thank you for our friends, our family. We thank you for even our elected officials and those from economic development who thought it not robbery to come and just share in this moment. You don't get 119th anniversary and burning a mortgage and all, every day. This is a very serious moment. And we thank you, Lord, for every seed that was sown, every dollar that was given, every program that ran, every sacrifice that was made to bring us to this place. It's no small thing. So, God, we give you praise. We're excited about what's coming, and we commit ourselves, Lord, to continue to walk with you, that you may get all the glory in all that we do. We thank you, we bless you, and we honor you, and it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen and amen and amen. Hey, y'all, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. Thanks to all of our guests. Not even guests, this is family. Thanks for family for coming to hang out. Thanks to our Vision Committee, Coco, and to Lamont McClure, but represented by Tina Smith from Economic Development, Phil Mittman, our former mayor, Kenny Brown, our councilman, and Mayor Sal Panto, and to our staff for making it happen. Thank you so much. God bless you. We'll see you on the weekend. All right.